Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Health Matters with Laura Kopek. And today I'm going to talk about how to navigate the holiday season, health, diet, lifestyle, the works. This is such a crazy time of the year for most people, and it's a real vulnerable time for coming down with an upper respiratory or falling into an adrenal crash, having your hormones fluctuate. Temperatures are changing, and that can bring a lot of inflammation and some pain for some people. So, let's kind of talk about some of the strategies and also how to think about it. Because really, how you think about it, how you unpack it is going to be a big part of how you can navigate it. And that's going to be even important for managing your stress. All right. So, um, I've been in this industry for about 25 years now, and I've been in practice for 18. And inevitably, most people relapse or find that their symptoms heighten during this time of the year. So, the first thing, as I always talk about, are those four stresses: physical, mental, emotional, and sensory stress. We often just think about stress as being mental or emotional, and we've got to think about it differently. We really do. So, when you are adding to your day, right? You're filling more in your calendar, whether it is Christmas shopping or visiting with friends or hosting. That is elevating certainly mental and emotional stress because it could be just really difficult on you in your head, but also sensory stress. We're overstimulating ourselves. Kids especially will often be more likely to have behavioral symptoms because they are in overstimulation mode. So it's really important to think about that. Physical stress, you may not be sleeping, you may have later nights, you might be eating off your normal nutritional plan. And that kind of off-roading, I prefer to call it off-roading rather than cheating. Cheating has such a negative connotation, but really, if we think about that, we're supposed to be on this path of health. Then also there are opportunities to, kind of step off the path and do things like, if you're thinking about I love a metaphor, so let's think about as a hiking metaphor. You're hiking along, and this is your journey, your health journey, and it's not a destination. It is a process. It is a journey, but you're going to want to like kind of explore a little bit and maybe put your feet in the creek or pick some flowers. And so with that, then you're going to want to think about, again, you're not going to like turn your hike into something from the road into the creek. So again, if you can think about it as a little bit of off-roading, then that will make it seem a little bit more friendlier, that there are opportunities to do that. Frequency is really important to consider. All right, so now we've kind of understood a little bit about why we're going to spiral into some things. We're increasing physical stress, not only because we're adding more to our schedule, but chances are we're eating things we don't normally eat at a frequency we don't normally eat them at. So if you're listening to this post Thanksgiving and you're still trying to recover out of that, it's a good time to kind of think about that because we're going to talk about the recovery to the off-roading, which is really important too. All right, so that mental and emotional stress, this just may be challenging, just trying to think about all the things you have to do that you don't normally put in your day. And then that sensory, the overstimulation. If you suffer from histamine issues, many of us are, and myself included, I've had a history with histamine issues. So if you do have histamine issues, we're going to talk about how much more vulnerable you are through the holidays to that. But check out my new book. It's all about histamine and how to really get on top of that. So yeah. All right. So understanding those stresses. All right. Let's talk about nutrition. All right. Let's dive deeper into this off-roading. All right. Certainly, if you're going to eat things you don't normally eat, portioning it out is also really important. But let's think about kind of going in and out of it. So if you have a dinner plans, with family and you want more freedom around what you may should or should not eat, then leading into that is going to be really important. I think some people are like, it's my cheat day, I'm going to eat this, or I had it last night. But what's really important is how you bookend those off-roading experiences. So if you don't normally eat grains and you're going to eat if you're going to like do gluten, then make sure that all day you're not, that you're really pulling back on those starchy carbs because your total amount of inflammation by and physical stress does matter. And if you're having issues with adrenals, glucose, histamines, hormones, those are all going to be affected by these stressors in an enhanced way that other people may not experience. So, when our body goes into stress, there's going to be a series of things that happen that kind of navigate this whole fight, flight, or freeze response to stress. And that may mean that you're going to find your histamines increase or your hormones fluctuate more, or you go into an adrenal crash or a cortisol spike that can make you feel kind of wired and tired. So, navigating that or understanding that is really important because, again, if we can manage the stress around our nutrition, and we'll talk a little bit about nutritional supplements, again, that totality of stress and its impact to your cellular response, to your whole body's response, from your autonomic nervous system to your digestion. Because here's the thing, when we are stressed, our digestion may reduce its efficiency. When that happens, you're actually going to be that much more vulnerable to these foods that may cause you a problem anyway. So, again, managing the totality of the stress can be really important. Great supplements to support some of these nutritional issues: histamine, digest supplements, gluten digest, dairy digest supplements. Those are all really good to help kind of lessen some of that physical stress of eating those foods. So, but again, if you're thinking about off-roading and not getting carried away into that off-roading experience, then what you're doing leading up to that event, and then also what you're doing the next day to come out of it. So, oftentimes I think people that have that like food hangover might really feel like, oh, where's the caffeine the next morning? But even if you just take 30 minutes and do some warm water with a little bit of fresh lemon, pinch of pink Himalayan sea salt, just kind of help flush your liver a little bit, moving into maybe even some green tea if that's an easier caffeine. But if you just come at it with coffee, and sugar or carbs in there, it's just gonna like add to it. It might lift your energy, but it's not going to be, it's again going to be part of that. Well, you're just going to start snowballing into an avalanche. And really what we're trying to avoid is the crash. We're trying to stay well through the whole holiday season, right? We're not trying to have our stress just become at a critical level. We're not trying to have our food issues turn into a crisis. We don't want to go into an autoimmune flare, or we don't want to go into an adrenal crash. So these are some tips to navigate that, to try and avoid that through the whole holiday season. So, again, if you can think about coming in and out of these dietary off-roading experiences, if you need to support them with particular supplements, then we've got those here. So happy to help you navigate that. All right, let's talk about the mental and emotional drain on us during the holiday season. Taking that quiet time for yourself, or even maybe doubling up on it. Oftentimes I'm looking for ways to piggyback some of the stress release instead of managing the stress. If we're thinking about managing and controlling everything, oftentimes we're suppressing that. That's headed to our stomachs, and that's going to interfere in digestion and make that whole stress experience compounded. So, we're talking about releasing stress. All right, deep breathing. All right, where are you going to deep breathe, right? For me, setting aside like a deep breathing session isn't always going to happen. So I'm looking for opportunities to piggyback that to something. Car ride. This is actually a great time because traffic is miserable, especially in the holiday seasons. We have people that don't normally drive kind of out there doing their Christmas shopping. And so that can, or trying to get somewhere in a hurry because we've squeezed in an errand. So really thinking about breathing and, you know, some people, when they're under stress, they shallow breathe. Some people, when they're under stress, they're quick breathing. So you're really trying to do the opposite of what you do in a stress response. So try and just take a moment and go, do I hold my breath? Am I shallow breathing? Am I more like the hyperventilator type of fast and quick breathing? So that's going to help you understand and know which deep breathing exercise is going to be really important for you. And again, adding it, putting on your makeup in the morning, getting dressed. Great time to just slow your breathing down nice and deep. You want to make sure you're pulling down into the diaphragm, the bottom of the lungs. If you're thinking about sweeping the bottom of the lungs with your inhale and exhale, that's where a lot of inflammation can kind of settle and can become upper respiratory. So, again, sweeping the bottom of the lungs, thinking about cleaning out your lungs as you would like clean out the closet and get the Christmas decorations out. If you think about cleaning out your lungs as part of, again, if we're going to off road, we want to smell the flowers, smell the fresh air. So, kind of thinking about how important that is and finding the time to do that. Again, the most important thing is to think about releasing your stress, not managing it, not controlling it. If you like repetition, mantras, prayers, serenity prayer is a good one. Also, just saying, I am safe. If you have a history of trauma and the holidays trigger you, often what is happening is our subconscious is trying to navigate the survival instinct, and that sometimes can overtake the rational conscious side of our brain. I hear women all the time say, if I could control it, if I could think this away, I would. So that's that division that can happen when we're under stress. And then we go into this fight, flight, or freeze. So know yourself and taking the time to be graceful or to show yourself grace can go a long way. So if you know that you're being triggered, again, saying something like, I am safe, I am okay, repeating that over and over again till you feel yourself kind of calm down or can look at the situation a little bit more objectively. Often people who have autoimmune have a history of trauma. They became wired that way at some point in their life. If they've had any kind of chronic stress, that can begin to make the body feel like it's under um, trauma. So, thinking about that self-talk differently, striving for excellence versus perfection, right? And also understanding that dopamine actually happens in the anticipatory state. It happens in delayed gratification. So taking that extra time where you can will help you. This is why oftentimes holidays can start mounting in stress because the dopamine is reducing and you're getting into the actual event where there may or may not be enough dopamine for you. So, also thinking about managing that dopamine. We live in a culture where immediate gratification is just such a important part of the holiday experience. Black Friday doesn't start at Black Friday anymore. It starts before. And so it's just the way that we're living. And as a result, we're increasing our own mental health imbalances because we are reducing some of those feel good chemicals by having more and more things faster and faster to us. So, looking for that time to kind of release the stress, manage the dopamine. Will go a long way to help you with the mental and emotional. Again, there's some nutritional supplements that are really good for this. So we can connect you with that if you're looking to help manage that stress. Okay. Sensory. This is finding time to be quiet. And so, again, looking for opportunities to find a way to relax that incoming stimuli. And there's a little bit of a shortcut too. If you listen to different frequency sounds, that can help reduce that stress response in the background. So this isn't just relaxing music. This is music that has a set frequency. So I tell people to just Google or put in YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen, 432 HZ, and then a bunch of that will come up. And if you are prone to inflammation, or if you're prone to sleeplessness, or if you're prone to anxiety, you can also put 432 HZ anxiety in YouTube, and you can get a little bit more customized to what you're looking for. Try out a few. If it doesn't feel good, don't listen to it. We want something that your body is immediately, and your mind is going to go, oh, that sounds really good. And then finding opportunities to play that in the background. Again, getting ready in the morning, on the drive, answering some emails, just having a little bit of that. And then also looking for a few minutes to be silent, whether that is before you go to sleep, when you first wake up. The stress response and the fluctuation of your cortisol outside of a normal range is most likely to happen within the first hour of waking up and within the last hour before we go to bed. So we see a lot of, especially women, we're more vulnerable to this, teenage girls in adrenal uh, fatigue, and especially adult women for sure. But there's different kinds of adrenal fatigue, whether you're overproducing cortisol throughout the day, underproducing cortisol throughout the day, or fluctuating where it starts too high or too low and then changes throughout the day. Really important if you're looking at adrenal support nutritional supplements. Just because it says adrenal support doesn't mean it's the right fit for you, because some support supplements are boosting cortisol. If you're already overproducing cortisol, that's not a match for you. And vice versa, if you're taking something that looks like that will calm down, and it might not be evidently showing that to you, then that's something to be watchful for. So it is also a great time to go, okay, I'm done having the holidays make me feel this way. Come on in for an appointment with us. This is what we specialize in, and it's so misunderstood. And why wait for the new year? The time is now to really take charge of your health. And if you're listening to this and you're going, oh man, this just sounds like me. Every year around this time, I have an upper respiratory infection or a sinus infection, or every year I'm just exhausted, or every year I'm just so wired and tired. My stress feels like it's out of control. It couldn't be a more perfect time to go. I've had enough, and I want to be seen and heard and supported and renewed. So we've got holiday specials. Come on in. All right, let's talk about how this is going to affect your hormones. And we'll also talk a little bit, because adrenals are hormones. And we forget, we say hormones, we're thinking estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. If you're going into chronic stress, fight, flight, or freeze, and your cells are reacting, you're going to find that your estrogen receptors are going to be not quite as efficient. Also, too, we metabolize estrogen and synthesize it in the gut and in the liver. And so, if we're overwhelmed with physical stress, and our amount of inflammation increases, our liver may not be filtering at its efficiency. If we are under any stress, again, that's going to affect the digestive system, the autonomic nervous system, and then that is going to mess with your cellular response. You could be looking at mitochondrial inflammation. Again, you might not be metabolizing your estrogen the same. So that means your estrogen support may not be being utilized properly. And that could lead to some hidden estrogen dominance, or again, just seemingly low estrogen. We want to look at estrogen in two places, both blood transport and saliva, because when you're looking at it in blood, you're looking at how it's being transported, attached to those blood proteins. When you're looking at it saliva, you're looking at what is available to the body in the through the cell, through cellular transport. Have to look at both. Now, certainly when you're looking at blood, you want to look at it more frequently than you want to look at it by saliva, but really important, especially if we don't have a period. Ladies, the older that we get, we are not going to be using our hormones the same way through this regular monthly cycle of it elevating and dipping. And so it's that much more important to look at your hormones in a very integrated way, diagnostically, functionally, blood and saliva to get the true picture of what is happening. And so, yeah, again, this is what we do. And we love helping women through this in a real strong, educated manner. So, all right, let's see. Have we hit everything we need to? All right. Another tip, I kind of talk about this as vacation eating as well. Again, coming in and coming out of it. So if you're going to have just a meal and you want to kind of manage your day, but if you're going away for the weekend or if you're going to stay at families for a week, then making sure you're super clean, very nutritional and dense, as many days going into it, and then twice as many days coming out of it. So, for example, if I'm going to go away for a 4-day weekend, then 4 days before, eating super clean. That means lean proteins, lots of really colorful vegetables, twice as many vegetables as fruit, super important, really low, good starches, sweet potatoes versus like rice or pasta. And then 8 days coming out of it as recovery. And then also, too, again, if your holiday events don't allow for that, really thinking about the doubling and tripling up of things. So thinking about, okay, at the event or at the restaurant, do I want to have, a glass of wine, or do I want to have dessert, or do I want to have bread? It's the overdoing of all of it at one time, because thinking, oh, I'm doing this, or this is my off-road meal, or I'm having a glass of wine, so it doesn't matter if I have two. It really does. It really does matter. So thinking about the amount of like sugars you do can be really helpful. So, those fruity, slushy drinks are going to have more sugar than, something that uh, is less. So thinking about that. And, I also can get into that in greater detail in an appointment with you if you're specifically like, hey, I want to navigate this. This happens every time. Okay, make sure you're doing your vitamin D right now. The weather is changing. Uh, Cold, overcast, if you travel, if you get on a plane, so important. So make sure you're not only just adding a vitamin D, but you're dosing it according to your weight or your age or both. So most adults need about 5,000 IUs. That's 125 micrograms on a daily basis. If you haven't been taking your vitamin D right along, you might want to do a couple weeks of a double dosage of that. Taking it in the morning, it can interfere in melatonin production. So if you're not getting enough sleep, definitely don't take your vitamin D in the evening. Uh, if you're sick or if you feel yourself running down right away, start to double that up. If you know you're going to travel in a few days, right away, start to double that up. So it's important to understand, again, maintenance and being really proactive on something like that. So that's really important to think about too. All right, middle of the night waking. Let's talk about this. This is another thing that's happening. People are pushing and not getting the recovery they need in sleep. Or again, if they're under this amount of stress and they're activating that stress response, then what can happen is you might find yourself somewhere between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Waking up and really having a hard time going back to sleep. So usually, cortisol and or histamines are the culprits where your body is trying to navigate this. Either you've overdone the high histamine foods and drinks, and your body can't process that and recover that during sleep. Or again, your cortisol is fluctuating in a way that just sends you into a cortisol dump or cortisol spike in the middle of the night. So, um, those things are really important to just try and keep them to a minimum. If no matter what you do, you can't manage that, we can help with that. But it's something to think about as understanding how your sleep fits into the world of stress. Typically, if you're urinating in the middle of the night, that may be related to histamines. And again, if you wake up and you've got that racing mind, it's not just a wake up and go back to sleep. That could be cortisol. And again, some people can have both happening. So looking at your stresses, if your cortisol is dumping, looking at your high histamine food intake and drink, if your histamines are dumping, if you're having any of that middle of the night waking, we do again have some supplements for that. So that you can get a better night's sleep, because if you don't recover, guess what? That puts your body under more physical stress, starts the cycle over again. So we really want you to sleep soundly. It's really important. And I want you to think differently about this whole holiday season in terms of stress and navigating diet, lifestyle, stress, sleep. All of that can really help you kind of think differently about so you can manage your expectations and also not walk through the holiday season going, what is wrong with me? Instead of going, okay, I ate that, I did this, I'm going to try this strategy, I'm going to do this, and really try and take more of a proactive approach to the way you think about moving through the holiday season, managing your expectations, releasing your stress, trying to find those recovery times so that you can be a healthier version of yourself this holiday season, going into the new year. Again, if this is something you really want support with, we are here for you. Love helping people navigate their health journeys. Don't wait for the new year. Do it now. All right. Have a great holiday season and stay tuned for another episode.